Business on Purpose podcast.
I know you don't want to do it. I know it's going to drive you crazy. I know you're going to have to go pull reports and look at numbers, but you need a budget. Hey, Scott Beebe with the Business on Purpose podcast. As always, we're here to do one thing, that's to liberate you from the chaos of working in your business. And at the time of this recording, it's getting near the end of the calendar year, which for many of you is the end of your fiscal year. Not physical, like working out, although for some of you, you might feel like it's the end of that too, and January's coming. But for your fiscal year, there's a couple of things that you've got to be aware of going into next year that will really set you up for some great clarity and also some great success. I've talked in an earlier podcast about how to put a budget together. Why do you need one? There is great clarity that comes from having a budget. There's actually great wisdom in budgeting things out. What builder will begin to building without first knowing the cost? There's a great piece of wisdom historically and biblically that I think will be helpful for you as you think through it. So as you build what you're building in the next calendar year, you're going to be building something. Either you're building onto the existing business you have, you're maintaining what you currently have, or you're building something new. What person is not going to count those costs before they dive into it? Now, are you going to know exactly, nailed down to the penny? No, not necessarily. There are some businesses, very rare, where you might have to nail it down literally to the penny as to what that looks like. But more often than not, especially as is the case in small business life, you're putting something out there that is a ballpark. But I will tell you this, having a ballpark is better than not having any park at all. Having a ballpark around your money is better than not having any park at all. We want to have some sense of where it is that you are headed financially for this coming year. Not only in your projected revenue and what you can project that you might do, and we'll talk about that, but also in your projected expenses and the buckets that you've got available for certain expenditures. What do I mean by that? Well, if you'll pull a profit and loss statement, if you don't have one, you need a bookkeeper. That's the first place to start. So this year's goal will be to do your books properly. Either you're going to do them yourselves through a tool like QuickBooks or Peachtree or whatever's out there that you can do your books through. There's a lot of actually up and coming entrepreneur and solopreneur software, Wave Accounting, some different things. And then you need to start there. But if you've already got that in place, you need to pull your profit and loss statements, at least from this past year, this current year, and then maybe 2017 if you have them, maybe the year prior if you've got those. Pull them back as far as you can, maybe back to 2 to 4 years. Then what you're going to do is you're going to look at all those subtotal categories, things that say like total payroll, total marketing expense. They're all going to be different depending on your profit and loss sheet and how you've got those things categorized and coded. But what I like to do is I like to take the number that you spent in the previous years individually and divide that into your total expense for that year. So for instance, let's say your total payroll for the year of 2017 was $387,000 and your total expenses were $1,500,000. You would take that 380 whatever thousand that I said and divide it into the 1.5 million number, and that will tell you a percentage of your payroll into your total expenses. Now repeat that in all those subtotal categories that you have. And if you think, well, I don't really have subtotal categories, all right, well then take the biggies, the big outliers that are out there. A lot of times marketing will be one of those, cost of goods might be that for you, payroll might be that for you, whatever that is. Take those categories, those subcategories, and let's divide that into total expenses and find out what percent of our total expenses are those subtotal categories. And then we're going to run that that'll kind of add up to give us a round number based on projection. And so you can run a projection this year. How do we do that? Well, take what you did this year, take a look at it, and then start to think through this year. Do you think, based on the projects, services, products that I offer, that I could match this year what I did last year? And you might look at trends, you might know certain things that are going on, certain relationships, contracts that are going to be coming on board or going offline that you can look at. So it's not an exact science, but it is absolutely worth you going through the process of being able to develop that through. So work through your projections, get those percentage numbers, apply the percentage to the projected number, and you start to have some element of a budget that's in place that you can begin to work off of and make some real-time decisions around. Now, if you work with people, this is where it becomes really helpful. So for instance, in our little team, we've got a team member who is solely responsible for all of our gift giving. We try to give a lot of gifts throughout the year. And so in gift giving, what I'm going to be able to do for that team member is give her a number with a plan. And in that number and plan, she doesn't really have to come back and ask me if those things are things that she can do or not, because she's got a number, a budgeted number that she can spend, and she's got a plan for how to spend it. Now, if something goes outside of all of that, or there's a certain dollar amount, then we talk about those things. But outside of that, we delegate, and we can do that based on the budget that we've provided, which is really exciting to be able to have. And so you need a budget because it helps you make decisions. It empowers other people, and it also forces you to really begin to know your numbers. Now, one of the best way to know your numbers, Profit First, Mike Michalowicz, the multiple bank account model that we absolutely subscribe to and teach. Make sure to check that out. This time of year is the perfect time of year to get that done. And as you're going through it, you're going to have the thought, well, this doesn't work for my business. That's not true. It works for every business. So there you go. That's something you need to focus on, developing a budget for this year. If you haven't done it, do it. Schedule a time, put it down, pull those reports, and if you need help with this, let us know. mybusinessonpurpose.com/vision to write down your vision. We'll see you next time right here on the Business on Purpose podcast.